Hey everyone, thanks for joining in. Hope you're having a wonderful day. This is Vignesh Ramlingam, and I head global marketing at fielddrive. We are an on-site event tech company, and we have been doing this talk session for the event professionals from past 2 years. We have had multiple sessions like this, and we would like you to have a good session on this one. Uh, Today, we have a very interesting person, Sarah Claes from EPAM Systems. I've had discussions with her from past 6 months on a lot of content, how she looks content, and I met her at a event in Belgium last year, and it was a very fascinating discussion. So I thought I must bring her up to this kind of a session. Sarah, welcome. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you, Vicky. Lovely to be here.
No problem. Thanks. Sarah, do you want to give an introduction and a background about yourself?
I am Director of Content Design at Empathy Lab by EPAM. I head the EMEA region for everything that is content design. And content design means we ask two questions. What content do you need? And how do you make that content exactly right for your users?
Awesome. Lovely. So the biggest question here is when the entire industry or when entire content marketing team has access to the same AI tools, what does original content mean right now?
That is a very good question. When everyone has access to AI, it means that original content must be truly original. Yeah. And the problem with AI is that it's built on a bunch of data and it takes the highest probability of a set of data points to appear together to then regurgitate that, which means that if you prompt an AI and you don't prompt it really well, you get the most likely outcome, the most likely result, which is, of course, the least original.
Yeah.
Very basic, but I think everybody knows that by now. So original content is the thing that an AI can't create, which is plethora at an event.
Perfect. So I just wanted to jump in to the session from an event professional perspective, right? We do a lot of events, and content plays a major role in all of the events, right? From speakers, right? From sessions, from everything, right? Even if you have to try and get registration from a lot of folks, you need a lot of content. So what's your take on this? How do you build for and how do you customize for every event?
Well, I'm going to present that in a bit in the deck, what I think is the best approach. But the thing that I want everyone to remember upfront is that content is not something that you create in the beginning a little bit to tease people and in the end a little bit to make sure they don't go away, they don't forget you. Content is actually something that starts from the moment you start to think about your event all the way through to the prep, to the event itself, until the event is done, and then after the event. It's all one connected whole. That is, I think, the most important thing to remember.
Perfect. The session is yours. You can continue.
Okay, thank you. I think I will share my slides. If I'm pressing the right button, you should see my screen. Do you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So just to make sure why I am qualified to even talk about this, as I said, I'm Sarah Claes. I'm from Belgium. I'm from Antwerp, but the company's based in Brussels. I am Director of Content Design for the EMEA region, but I have a left and a right brain, so I have a bit of a strange profile to be working in a tech company. I have a university degree, linguistics from the University of Ghent, so a master's in linguistics. But then I also have a bachelor's from the Royal Conservatory Antwerp in Word and Media, which is part of the drama department. So I have the theory and I have the creativity nicely put into my brain. My career started when I was a part-time junior copywriter and editor, and I quickly became a full-time copywriter, editor, conversation manager, tried my hand at social, did not like it. My heart goes out to all the community and conversation managers, because I had the horrible honor of having to manage the Facebook page of Volkswagen during Dieselgate. So that put me off social media for quite a while. After that, I became a content strategist in the insights team. Then I became the team lead for the content design department. And then when EPAM acquired us, I became a full-time director of content design. So that's, in a nutshell, the things I've done over the past 15, almost 20 years. People call me ender of chaos, because that's one of the things I'm really good at. You give me all your chaos and then I turn it into order or an organized plan or a strong approach, which is, the structured university part of my brain. But like I said, I'm also at the other side of the brain, I'm also a creative. So I really love storytelling, and I'm going to do my very best to tell some compelling stories today. But talking about content from a theoretical perspective, as someone who makes these strategies for other companies, it's really great. But I also want you to know that I also do more than theory. I also do practice. So I'm a podcaster. You can see me here with Neil Patel, with Rory Sutherland, whom I've had the pleasure of interviewing. Also in the middle, Taide Guajardo from Procter & Gamble. So I podcast occasionally, if the speakers are right and if it's interesting. I also did it for UBA. I recorded their first English podcast. I'm also a speaker coach at events for our clients, and on the side, because I also work as an independent contractor sometimes in my spare time. And I am, as you can see on the bottom, the go-to host at EPAM for events that happen in the EMEA region. So I don't just know the theory of the content, I also know how to create it. So let's talk about the event content problem, right? What I've noticed, and I'm going to talk about my perspective as someone who often attends these events, I see that there is a lot of content, but there is no strategy behind the content. An agenda is not a content strategy. A lineup does not automatically mean a bunch of value. So let's dive into that, right? What I see when I look at an agenda, stuff that I see that companies do when they create an event, whether it's an event for professionals, a big one with dozens of speakers, or if it's an in-house event for a company, often they lack a content strategy because the organizers rely on fame. Oh, we'll invite someone famous and then everyone will come. Yes, the people who know the famous person, the people who like the famous person, which isn't always the case, or the people who agree with the famous person, and where there's not necessarily value because they're famous, Then the same with logistics. We'll build an event and we'll just get a bunch of speakers and we'll have 3 sessions at the same time because we want to give everything to everyone and cover everything. Again, that's not a real content strategy. If you don't have a clear view of where you want to go, it's not a strategy. And then anecdotes. I also see specifically with in-company events, so not the big professional event organizers, but companies that organize events for themselves, is that they just rely on their speakers to just come up with everything and they leave them to their own devices. And then the speakers come up with slides that are great for a boardroom, but not so great for an event, or, just a bunch of personal anecdotes. So what is a real strategy? A real strategy defines an audience problem and then designs sessions around those problems to solve those specific problems. But to do that, you really need to know your audience. You need to figure out what their issues are. Then you need to figure out what solves these issues, and then find the speakers who can come and bring that solution. That means that it requires a bit of a mindset shift when it comes to content, right? So if it's not fame, if it's not logistics, and if it's not anecdotes, what is it? Well, it's a self-contained content system, not a buffet of talks or sessions, but a system that is contained within itself, a content system. And that content system, like I said in the introduction, it spans everything in your event. It spans the before, the during, and the after. In the before, it means attracting the right audience and making people want to come and feel like they have a reason to come and listen or come and participate in the workshops you're offering. And to make sure that you are crafting the thing that's going to deliver on the promises that you make. If you promise that you're going to solve a problem, you have to craft the sessions to actually solve that problem, or you will not be hosting another event and people won't come. Then during, you have to deliver that solution with confidence. And like I said, you have to promise the thing that you deliver the thing that you promised. And that's one thing. The second thing is branding, right? An event is embodied branding from start to finish. So everything, every little session that happens needs to feel connected to the bigger theme. So it feels like it's one big whole that solves a bunch of problems within the same sphere. And then after, it's important that you keep the conversation that you started going, and you need to the stuff that you crafted needs to go and flow and keep that conversation alive, and ideally also make them successful with the information that they learned, the reason they came, and then you can start to tease the next edition, because if they had a problem, you promised a solution, they came, you gave a solution, and they can then implement that solution. That is the best possible scenario possible, right? And then they will definitely be there for the next edition. I'm going to dive deeper into each of these three, in the before, the during, and after. Before the event, I called it crafting a reason to come, and that's what we want to do, right? Because some of the people in the audience know this insight because it comes from one of their own reports. People don't come for an event, they come for what the event helps them do. What is the thing that an event helps you do? Well, if we look at the top two reasons, which are the most important ones, the first one is people come to meet other people. They don't come to meet other people for the fun of it. They don't come to meet other people so they can talk about themselves or talk about their businesses and hand out as many business cards as they possibly can. That's not the kind of meeting people want. The kind of meeting that people look for is meeting people that are going to help them with their career or help them solve a problem they have. So they really have to be meetings with value, meetings that fix something, that deliver something, that unblock something, meetings where they meet people who are experts so they can talk about a very specific problem and a very specific solution and the outcomes. But it's much more than just, hey, I want to hook up with 20 people. No, I only want to meet the people that are right for me and that are going to be willing and open to help me, and I can help them in return. That's the first reason. Second reason is I want to learn something, but I don't just want to learn something because knowledge is everywhere. I want to learn the things that are going to make me more successful, going to make me better in my business, going to make me better at what I do, going to help me unblock something that I'm struggling with, going to give me more insight in the people I deal with or more insight into myself, going to help me optimize things. It's knowledge, but knowledge with a purpose. Those are the key two reasons people come. There's more than that, but those are the first two or the top two. So people don't come to an event because there's an event. They come because the event will help them achieve something. What does that mean? If you know that people come for a reason, then you can craft your event to fulfill that reason, right? And then when you start, at the very start of creating your event, you have to ask these three questions. And on the left hand in white are the key questions, and on the right hand side is an example of how I applied it, because I think it's important you see that this is not just theory, but applied. First question is, what data do you have? Do you have any trends? Do you have any insights? Do you have any numbers? Do you have any, do you talk to people in the industry? What are they talking about? What are they saying? Have you looked on LinkedIn? What are the key opinion leaders saying they're struggling with? Have you looked at the comments? What are people saying in the comments and what are they complaining about? Have new studies come out that have shown something about the industry that you're creating an event for? Take all of that data, number one. These are the problems that people are having in this industry. Put them on Post-its. if you must. Take a room, grab some Post-its, they still work, or do it in a Miro board, but every problem goes on a separate Post-it. Step 2 is you take these Post-its and you group them together. You see if there's patterns. If you don't want to do that, Miro has an AI. Just ask the AI to see what are the trends, or what are the buckets, the content buckets that you see. And then the third one is, now you have your content buckets. You can develop sessions for each bucket. Now you need the thing that binds them all together. What is that thing that binds them all together? What is the theme? What is the tagline that connects all of this? And so on the right-hand side, the example of how I applied it recently with my colleagues. What trends or insights did we see? Well, at the end of 2025, we Empathy Lab, we are an offering for CMOs and marketing leaders who want to combine tech with empathy. And so these marketing leaders, we saw that a lot of them were struggling with the tech, which was, of course, AI. There was so much hype. There were so many beautiful demo videos of people demoing stuff that wasn't actually real. You saw lots of companies bragging about their proofs of concept. You saw lots of, like I said, lots of hype, lots of noise, lots of whoa, and every week something new came out. Sometimes every day something new came out, and you could feel the overwhelm of these marketing leaders, and so many tools, so many options. Which ones do I use? Which ones do I choose? Which one do I buy? Do I build? How do we implement? Who can help me implement? Should I have a small group running this, or should I directly go company-wide? What do I do with this? And nothing, there was a lot of confusion, very little value, and nothing was actionable. We saw that, put all these things on a Post-it, and said, these kind of fall into different buckets. First one was state of AI. We have no idea what's happening. Too much is happening at the same time, and I can't zoom out. I can't take a look. So state of AI. Second one is all these things are out there, but I don't know how to build a system that's actually going to create value for my business. 3, curiosity. What is everyone else doing with AI? What are my competitors doing with AI? We have these people on LinkedIn discussing their teeny tiny, hey, I created an agent that can write my emails and organize my calendar. Great, but what's a big business like mine doing with AI? 3. 4, I want to try these AI things. I don't want to see another video. These videos make promises that aren't real. I want to see the tool in action. I no longer trust anything, any vague promises. I want to see the thing and feel the thing. These were our 4 buckets. What we did was we included a talk about the state of AI, which was the opening to keynote. We had at least one client come and show and tell how they used AI in their business with a concrete case. What other businesses are doing. Again, we had in the UK, we had a panel with different clients coming together and talking about what they were doing with AI and how it all differed. And we had 8, 10, or 12, depending on the location, demo booths with actual demos that people could use. So that's how we created our content. And then we needed to figure out one theme that brought it all together, and there it is, AI made real. So we had a bunch of innovation days under the theme AI made real. And we hosted this in Brussels, Boston, Amsterdam, London, and I think the next one's going to be in Barcelona. Yeah.
Nice.
Yes. And so this is how you have a theme that runs through everything you do, everything you say. And so in the opening keynote that was hosted by our VP strategy, David Billings, he referred to AI made real. We had, when the clients were on stage, they talked about the work that they'd done and said, and this is the part that we did with EPAM because, they make AI real. As the speaker coach, I made sure that little bit was in their speeches. And then you had the demos where AI was made real because you could just talk to them, and they all had very similar branding. Needless to say, I'm very proud of these events because they work quite well. So that's before the event, right? This is how we figured out the content that needed to go in there. We looked at the issues in the market. We identified sessions that solved those problems, and then we found one thing that connected them all, the theme that made it all coherent. Now, during the event, the goal is to make sure that the content that you deliver is impactful. But everybody talks about impactful content, but what is that? How do you do that, right? Well, another insight, again from one of the reports that I found, is attendees can get content anywhere, so nobody cares about the information access. So saying we have information, come and find it at our event is no longer enough. It used to be years ago, before the internet or in the early ages of the internet, when you couldn't find everything online yet. But now there's so much information online, you can find just about anything online. So people no longer come to your event just to have access to specific information. They do come to your event, like the thing we said earlier, because they are looking for a specific piece of content that will solve their specific problem, which is a different job than I just need access to information. No, I need access to the right information that applies to my situation, which means that you need to craft, once you have your buckets, you need to craft every session with a clear job to be done in mind. JTBD is marketing speak for job to be done. And so whenever we design a session, I ask two questions. First one is, what is the one thing you want people to remember after this session? What is the key takeaway? And I practice what I preach. Vicky, you asked me what is the key message here, and I already said it. After this session, I want everyone who has listened to this to remember that content for an event starts the moment you start to think about an event and goes like a red thread over and over and over and through and through and through until long after the event. It's one continuous process, one continuous engine, system, strategy, whatever you want to call it, from start to finish. That's the thing I want everyone to remember. So that's the job to be done of this webinar that I've created. And the second one is, why would anyone in the audience care about it? That's also a question I ask, because it's great if I think it's a good solution, but why would anyone in the audience care about it? And so if you cannot put to words why anyone would think, why you think anyone would care about your message, you have to design another talk. Sorry, it's very hot here in Belgium. I need a small sip of water.
God, awesome. I think that was pretty interesting. I think it was detailed, well put out. Thanks. I think
And I have
to
more.
go. Yeah, I know. Yeah, continue.
Yes. So, like I said, every session exists to solve a specific problem, and if you can't name it, then the session doesn't work. I've also seen that the format of your session impacts the perceived value. So not just the value, but the perceived value, how people think how valuable the session was. Some formats are perceived as positive, others as negative. So what's perceived as quite valuable are keynotes where you reframe a perspective or you give very clear, like a playbook or something really actionable, or cases, because we all, we're curious and we want to know what everyone else is doing and take a peek behind the curtain. Stuff that works less well are panels and generic presentations. Panels often underperform not because they're not an interesting format, they're a highly interesting format, but they're executed very poorly. You have hosts that don't dig deep enough. You have panelists that talk for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then the three others still have a go. The pace is very low. There's not enough value. And yeah, if you have a weak moderator that doesn't, put some fire into the panel, then nothing much happens. And traditional presentations, if you're organizing a corporate event, these traditional presentations can get really boring and, like I said, boardroom style rather than adapted specifically to the event. And now, so we've talked about the content of the sessions, we've talked about the format of the sessions. Now I want to talk about the delivery. As a speaker coach, I want to give you a couple of pieces of advice, some insights that I have from working in the field. Professional coaches know that the difference between a strong keynote and a forgettable one is not the experience of the speaker. I've had very experienced speakers bomb on stage completely because they made their slides on the train the night before. They didn't rehearse. They went on stage. They tried to improvise a bit and the whole thing fell apart. Or the design, of their slide is not because there's also people who think that if their slides are perfect, the presentation is going to be wonderful, and they're meticulous about the design and the stuff that goes on there, and then they forget to look at everything else, all the other aspects. a successful presentation is one that is well prepared. The preparation process is the thing that sets it apart. And I'm going to give you a quick insight into the 5 steps that I use with my clients. The first one is the theme, one theme to rule them all. When I said this in the beginning, again, it wasn't theory. I use this in practice. Coherence is not just a tagline. Every single speaker that you have has to know this, the theme of the event, what it means, and how their talk fits into the bigger theme. Then you have a kickoff to wake them up, because like I said, some people make their slides the night before. We do not want that. So at least a month before, ideally longer. If you have, especially with inexperienced speakers, you kick off, you share your insights, the expectations for their talk, and a timeline. By this time, I expect you to do this, this, and this. If you have an event with a specific theme, you can create a PowerPoint template, which also augments the coherence, and all the speakers have to work in the template. And once you got going, there's 3 things you need to do. One, you need to make them think about the content. I try to get them to write an outline, which means that I ask them the same question I asked before. Again, it's all plucked from real life. I ask them, what's the one thing people need to remember from this talk? What's the conclusion? And once they've put that conclusion on paper, once they've articulated that, I ask them, what are the 10 steps to get to that conclusion? What is the problem they start with, and the 10 steps to get to that conclusion? And once they've written those 10 lines, they have an outline. Once you have that outline, you can pick apart every sentence into each individual thought. Each individual thought goes on a slide, and you have your basic structure. Step 2 is making. I highly prefer to let speakers make their own slides. It's never as impactful when someone else builds your presentation and you just learn it by heart. So if they ideally make it in a branded template and send it to me, then I can take a look. And then feel. This is the performance aspect. I do a dry run at least once, and then I pay attention to 3 layers. So we do a dry run, and we record the dry run for 2 purposes. The second one I'll tell you later. First one is for the speakers to see themselves afterwards, so they can take a look. And I make them go through their own presentation, listen as someone in the audience, and note for themselves when they nod off, when they stop paying attention, when their attention drops. That's a moment in their presentation they need to fix. I also ask them to figure out when they think something no longer makes sense, because when you're saying things, it all makes sense. But when you're listening to it, sometimes you skip a step because you're so into it. But as an audience, if you're listening to it a week later as an audience member, you suddenly realize, this slide and that slide don't seem very connected. I need to make a bridge in between. So the drop in attention and the bridges. That's the first exercise. Second exercise is I tell them to turn around. I let them only listen to the presentation, which means they listen to their own voices. And that's such a tough exercise, because hearing your voice, if you're not used to it, can be quite tough. And then we talk about the things that happen there, and we try to correct them. And the last one is the other way around. We sit in front of a computer, switch off the sound, and we look at the way they move, if they have any tics, if they're pacing, if their hands are fidgety, if their hands are in their pockets, how they come across. Are they leaning backwards? Are their legs spread wide, or are they hiding behind something? And the more they do the presentation, the more comfortable they feel. This is less necessary with the more seasoned speakers, but especially if you have in-house events, this is really a really strong exercise. And then on the day itself, obviously we do a dry run to tell them where to come on, get off, how to hold a microphone, etc. If you go through all of this, I can guarantee you that you have a much stronger presentation, a much stronger speaker than you have when you do not get involved. But this is important, because a lot of events organizers do not get involved with the content quality. They outsource it to the speakers themselves. So now you're saying, Sarah, should I get involved in what my speakers are saying? And my answer is absolutely. Speakers may have the raw material and the experience and the insights, etc. But some speakers that are inexperienced have no experience with content design. They don't know how to craft it so that it lands well. Or more seasoned speakers, they have their speeches ready and they're going to give the same speech here as they gave at the other event, but then your uniqueness is gone. Yes, and then it could have been AI, or you could have just put up the video. If you want something that's unique to your event, sometimes you have to fight for it with the more professional speakers. Which means you do not brief your speakers, but you design with them. your content design with your speakers. And you always make sure, like I said, you put a link to the bigger theme of the presentation. And then you say, I don't have time for that. Fine. If you don't have time, hire a professional. Either you make the time or you make the budget, but you're going to need at least one of the two to make sure that you have strong content. Because in the end, you're the one responsible for what the audience gets. Speaker isn't. They're only responsible for a part of their part, but you're the organizer of the event. People have paid money to you. So in the end, you're the one who gets the bad rep if you don't deliver what you promise. Small note on the quality of the host. I've done that as well. And the reason I talk about this is because of something that happened at Innovation Day in the UK, in London. It was at the beautiful Barbican. We had a speaker called Dr. Laura, who's a consultant for Downing Street 10. So she consults on AI for Downing Street 10. So she was not just anyone. We were really looking forward to having her as a guest, but she was supposed to arrive at, I think, 6:30 or 7, and at 7:30 she still wasn't there, and we got a call and said she can't come, she's stuck in the tube, we're sending a replacement. If you are not a professional host, you have your cards and you go, shit, what do I do? What do I do? What do I say? And you go to you get the information about the other speaker and you just go on stage and just say, ladies and gentlemen, I know you're expecting Dr. Laura. We're very sorry she couldn't make it, but we have someone else. Here are all his credentials, ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Hume. I find that meh as an introduction, as someone who embodies, in this case, the Empathy Lab brand, empathy. So if you have a professional host, they can come up with something that works a bit more and is more in line with the theme of the day and more in line with the brand of the event. So one of the things I said was, at the beginning of the event, I introduced myself as the host, Sarah, but I am from Belgium because native speakers can tell I'm, my English is native. I learned it from the age of 12. So I said, I'm from Belgium, honored to be here, yada, yada, yada. And at the end of the event, so when this happened, I went on stage and said, as you all know, I'm from Belgium. And whenever I come here, it feels, I always learn something about the culture. For example, yesterday I was on the tube and there was a delay on the tube because apparently there was a passenger dancing naked on the rails, and you saw in the in the room that people were laughing, going, yeah, regular occurrence. And I saw that, and so I said, I see some of you are laughing. I've since learned that this is a cultural phenomenon, everything that happens on the tube. Unfortunately, our Dr. Laura has a similar problem. She's also stuck on the tube because the train in front of her has caught fire. So, and some laughter in the room because people were laughing at the absurdity of the situation and how these two things happen in sequence. And I said, but we have someone great to replace her. Some say he is an AI prodigy. Others say he is a director of AI for a big company. And others say he's just a really wacky teacher. Let's find out what he is, shall we? Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Hume. And it's a completely different kind of introduction. It's the same content. The one speaker can't come. The other speaker we have is also fabulous. Give them an applause. But the way you wrap it within 5 minutes, that's the difference of quality in a host. And I think you should really, when you pick a host, you should really think about that. Is this someone who can think on their feet, who can fix a situation when it goes off the rails? And is it someone who can do all of this under pressure with a smile? After the event, what I call value beyond the stage. Again, an insight. People forget most of the things they saw at your event unless you bring it back to them. So the majority, there's so much information, and then people are on their phones and talking to people, and there's just plethora of information. And unless they are like me, where they write everything down, every speech I ever saw, I write it down in my little booklet. I have my event booklet, World and Knowledge. But unless you're like that, you will have forgotten. Some people take pictures, but how many of us take a look at their pictures from an event 6 months later? So they won't remember unless you bring it back. That means that you have sort of a wasteland of forgetfulness that you can just play in. It doesn't mean you need to redo the entire event, but you do get to pick the stuff from your event, throw it out there and remind people of how great it was. 4 big pillars, as far as I've been able to discern. First one is thank you, gratitude, thank you for being there. We loved that you were there. Within 24 hours, because studies show after 24 hours, impact drops by at least 50%. Second one is, let me help you remember. You don't have to tell your audience, hey, let me help you remember. That's too on the nose. But it means that you can send them session recordings, you can send them the slides, you can send them additional resources, you can send them takeaways or infographics. The slides that you saw when you were in the room, slides that people were photographing, those are the ones that you want to work with afterwards. Yeah. Then there's also the look what you missed. Because again, events, the number one reason was people connecting with each other and having great conversations. So you can have, if you have a photographer who captures these interesting conversations, who captures these moments of connection. You have after movies, Vox Pop, you can have little capsule videos where you follow people or you interview participants or any of that. If you've had them sign, yes, I consent to be photographed and videographed, and you are allowed to use that on social channels. Otherwise, no. And the last one is, do you have any feedback? It's always nice to know what you can improve and that you value their opinion. As long as you do it quick and light, don't make a 30-question questionnaire that takes 15 minutes to fill in. But your event is not just this fleeting moment in time. It is your most valuable content engine. And that means that you need a mindset shift, right? You don't need to say, okay, our event is tomorrow. Do we have someone who makes videos and a photographer? And then, I don't know, someone who can walk around and do some things. Yeah, okay, guys, go and make some stuff and capture as much as you can and come back. And then we'll figure out what it is we're going to do with this content and how we're going to put it on our social channels. That's not the right strategy. Again, I'm back with the same message. Your content engine starts at the beginning when you are thinking about your event and goes all the way through to the end. How does that work? It starts with when you're doing what does my audience want and how do I create the value to give that to them? When you have identified those sessions that are going to deliver the value, you already need to ask yourself, what's the stuff we're going to publish about this? What are the key insights? What are the numbers from the case, the performance indications? All of these things that are in the sessions, pick out the stuff you want to highlight later. On the other hand, figure out what story you want to tell about your event. So not necessarily the content from the speakers, but about your event. Like I said, the meetings that happened, the meet and greet with famous people, book signings, the food, the CMO lunches or whatever it is you're doing, all of these things. What are the stories you want to say about that, about the event itself? And you think about that upfront. Then, like I said, this is one of the reasons you need to co-create with the people who host your sessions. When they're hosting the sessions, make sure that they have what I call LinkedIn slides or LinkedIn moments. It's a moment where you are sure the thing that's going to appear on screen is going to make people bring out their phones and take a picture. And that's a picture they're going to use for the AI-generated opinion piece that they're going to put on LinkedIn. So design these things into the presentations of your sessions. Then 3 is build the capture into the experience, right? So don't just have a random videographer, a random photographer, and a random whatever it is and say, hey guys, go and take a look and capture what you think is interesting. No. Give these people a very concrete mission. A moderator, if you've done your panel afterwards, it's up to you because you had contact with the panelists and you talk to them and you know the backstory and all of that to then extract the main learnings from your panel. When you have a content team, put it in there and give it a clear mission and make sure that you capture anything real time. The more video you have, the more material you have to source from later. And then again, your distribution plan. Right? We tend to make it after the event is done or right before the event, but ideally, when you do start with the content you want, you can already create your content backlog. You can say, we're going to have 7 social media posts with a slide from each session. We're going to have a recap blog of each session, which I do with AI, by the way, where one of the reasons I do a dry run is so I can record it. I take the recording, put it into one of our proprietary AIs, and that one helps me create a recap article, and I have it validated even before the speech happens, so I know that within 24 hours I can publish it. Say, okay, we're going to need a recap article of every session, or if you have many sessions, a recap article of the morning sessions and the afternoon sessions, or the sessions all clustered around this theme, we're going to put into one article. You can have opinions about the stuff that happened, right? You can ask key opinion leaders, look, this is a speech that was given, this was a content, you were there. Do you want to write a piece and share your opinion? Sales stuff, right? Infographics, any sales material you can use, especially from cases that you can use afterwards if it's an in-company event. If you know all of the things that you want, you just put them in an Excel and there's your backlog. And then you have the Excel to brief the teams that are going to capture the experience. You can say, look, we're going to have 7 social media posts. This is what needs to go in it. These are the videos you need to make. And these are the things that you need to capture on camera. And to come full circle back to AI, these are the things that I think I would love to share with you. And this is my final slide. And after that, we can go back to Q&A. What about AI? Frankly, people don't care. That's quite a bomb to land, I know. But studies have shown that people can't always discern what is AI and what isn't. AI has gotten that good. And if you say it's made with AI, most of them go, nah. If they go, nah, if AI is not the purpose of the content, if AI is at the service of a great story or a funny sketch or a really personalized piece of content, then people don't mind. If it's just AI for the sake of AI or AI for the sake of speed, people will be annoyed. It's not a positive thing. It's a negative thing. But there's someone who did a study where they had a creative director and his team create a small video of, I think, 90 seconds with a little story. And one was done with people who were really designers and sketching the thing, who created it. And once it was done, they gave it to a completely different group, the AI nerds, and they recreated the entire thing with AI. And then they ran 2 focus groups. One got to see the one that was designed by humans, and one that got to see the video designed by AI. Results were the same. People connected with the story, loved the story, and when they asked, do you know if it was made by humans or AI? People didn't really know. And if they said, would you care if it was made by AI? They went, meh. Because the story was great. It was conceived by a human. It was made to be empathetic, to create emotion, to have an impact. And then the way you produce it doesn't really matter all that much, aside from the moral aspects, of course. So that's the first one. So should we use AI? Your audience doesn't really care. What they do care about is if you use it wisely and with taste. So where AI helps is with speed. If you have an image from one of your speakers at a session and you want to remove the background and you do that with AI, sure, it takes a couple of seconds, done. Transcription from a speech. Sure, summarization, a great RAG. You upload it in the like I did for the recap article. You upload it into a RAG. RAG tells you, hey, these are the highlights, and you give it a fixed structure, and it just writes a basic article for you, and then you can work on that. Scale. If you need an Instagram post, an Instagram ad, a LinkedIn post, a LinkedIn ad, a LinkedIn mail, a tweet, the whole shebang, sure, scale. If you want to localize and you want to put the Burj Khalifa in the background or the Eiffel Tower in the background, go ahead. No problem. Extraction, the same thing. Put it in RAG. Give me a quote that I can use. Really nice. Give me the key highlights. No problem. Where it failed, and I will repeat this, I think, until I'm blue in the face. Do not outsource your thinking. Think by yourself first. Shape the story, craft the story. We are still the masters. We still know the thing that touches someone else's heart, touches someone else's mind. Taste and judgment. This is a quote from Roland Butler from Zalando, his speech in the UK. He said, they have this entire AI content engine. They make content end to end at Zalando because They produce images, 1,000 variations of images in hours worldwide. They localize everything. But he smiled and he said, and I will always remember this, in the beginning we failed because we failed to realize that our engineers didn't spend 3 years in art school. They didn't know about composition. They didn't know about light. They didn't know about color theory. They didn't know about zooming in, zooming out. They didn't know about angles, all the things that people who are trained in the arts know. Same with a story, you know. Yes, your LLM can write a really nice article, but I don't know if you've seen it. But on LinkedIn, there's a lot of backlash recently, especially under marketers, where posts are written with AI, they reek of AI, and people below go, we can tell this was written with AI. We don't want the opinion of AI. We want your opinion as a professional expert. So give us that. You know. And another thing you cannot outsource yet, I think, is speaker coaching. I haven't seen an agent that does what I do, so you're still better off with a human. Yeah, your speakers are going to hate it, and here are 4 reasons why. First of all, copyright ownership. If they give you their input and you put it into an AI and stuff comes out, the input is owned by them, the AI is owned by another company, and the output, is it owned by you? Is it owned by that company? Does it belong to the people whose data it originally was? It's a very complicated thing, and it usually comes down to who pays for what. Be very careful when you use your speaker's input and use AI, let AI loose on that data. Second one, copyright infringement. If you upload a speaker's talk onto a random AI, that data goes into their data lake, and the information that belonged to the speaker is gone. It's in the lake. Anyone has access to it now. So are your uploads gated? Do you have an AI where you know that the data that your company puts in stays with your company? If that's not the case, you can't put any of the speakers, any of the sessions, any of what anyone else said into that AI, because it will be gone. 3, IP, intellectual property of voice and physical appearance. I've had an issue with that, where I also create voiceovers for corporate videos. So there's quite a bit of voice material out there. For a project, someone said, but you're sick and we need this by the end of the week. So we're just going to train an AI on your voice. So we have a voice duplicate, an AI voice of you, and then we'll just do the video that way, and that's fine. It was not fine. And I now have in my contract that I make them sign a clause that says you are not allowed to use my voice as input data to create an avatar, an AI avatar. Because they can make me say whatever they want and it wouldn't be me, but it would sound like me, and that can be very dangerous. Same with my appearance. EPAM has a lot of video footage. I went to HR. There is now a clause in my contract that says that when I'm gone, EPAM cannot use my likeness to create webinars from me talking when it's not me talking. You know, so this is also difficult and dangerous. And so that brings me to the last point. I've had it put in some of my contracts. So watch out for AI clauses when you sign your speakers. When you sign the contracts, go through them, see what they say. If they're very explicit about it, be very careful, because we're cracking down on it.
Awesome.
And then the last point is AI is not the thing that's going to set you apart. I've said it once, I've said it twice, I'll say it again. The thing that sets your event apart is not the volume of your stuff, how greatly it was localized. The thing that's going to set your event content apart is it original? Is it exclusive? Is it human and empathetic? Does it make me feel something? Were the insights that you shared actionable, or were they really sharp, or did they make me see the world in a different way? And the rooms and the stuff that happened in the rooms and the break, that authenticity, none of these things you can outsource to AI. So it is a tool in your belt, but it should never be a means to an end. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Sarah. This was a very detailed, well put through, well thought out presentation, and I think you covered all the questions. Thanks for doing this. Let's open up to the floor if there are any questions from the audience. Just give us a second. Yeah, excellent presentation. It is.
It was a lot, I know, but I only get this opportunity
Yeah.
once. I know Vicky doesn't want to do like a series, so I just took
No,
the opportunity to be
yeah,
complete.
of course, no problem. So what I'll do is, I think we are running out of time as well, Sarah. So what I can do is, uh, uh, to all the attendees right now, I will share this presentation after this on an email, and then if there are any questions that comes up, I will introduce to Sarah, and you can get in touch with her and ask your questions. Thanks a lot, Sarah. Thanks a lot for doing this. This was pretty useful. I think for me personally, I've got a very clear idea on how to look at content for some of our events going forward. So it's been a good one, right? Thanks a lot.
You're very welcome. Glad it was useful.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks, folks. Have a nice day.